or unmute yourself. So as if we go along, you do have questions, please capture them in the chat and I'll be happy to read them aloud at the end of the presentation. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jen.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks for having me. Deb, just a little logistic. I had a message that said with the recording, it may not capture my PowerPoint as a presentation. I don't know if that's an issue for you or if we can merge them back up.
Okay.
I can change over and have it just share my screen if that works better.
Yeah, I don't really know. Normally we've had the sharing of the screen and it's captured the recording just fine. I don't know what may have changed.
Okay. Hey, we'll run with it. Let's see where we go.
Okay.
All right, so I just wanted to make sure Deb's informed me that she can hear me okay. If there are any difficulties with internet, I will try to chat or I may turn my outgoing video off just to conserve bandwidth, just a heads up. So first, thank you for having me. I'm Jen Beardsley. I'm the Prize Competitions Program Administrator for Reclamation. A little bit about me. I came to Reclamation in 1992 as a student chemist. So I did bench chemistry doing water quality analysis in our Pacific Northwest region. I've worked in multiple roles over my career with Reclamation in various regions and offices, and I am now here in our Research and Development Office in Denver, overseeing the prize competitions program. Today, I'm going to introduce you to prize competitions and how Reclamation is using this tool to advance our mission. I'll give you a little bit of organizational background, talk about why prize competitions and a quick look at the process, and then talk about how our programs evolved over the 6 years we've been conducting prize competitions. Then I'll talk a bit about the portfolio of competitions, what's running now, what's on the horizon, and then highlight a few successes from those competitions. So here we go. Research and Development Office. So the Research and Development Office is located in Denver, Colorado. We align with Reclamation's science advisor who reports up through our chief engineer into the commissioner's office. We have two primary programs under the Research and Development Office, the Desalination and Water Purification Program, and then the Science and Technology Program. So I'll expand on science and technology a bit further here in a minute. So the primary objective for our office is to focus on addressing those technical challenges that we face as we carry out our core mission being deliver water, generate power in the most simplest terms. We engage with a number of customers that are both internal and external to Reclamation. We, under the Science and Technology Program in the Research and Development Office, it's our opportunity and it gives us several pathways for advancing research in Reclamation. The Science and Technology Program has 3 tools. First, we have the Science and Technology Research. So this is the Reclamation-led research. It's a competitive internal process where our researchers make proposals. They're racked and stacked depending on criteria and funds awarded so they can carry out either research or demonstration or scoping type work. Technology transfer provides us with various avenues for entering into agreements with private entities that give us that opportunity to test new technologies or collaborate on developing technologies. The third tool we have is the prize competition. This is what provides us an opportunity to engage a larger crowd or a crowd of solvers. You'll hear us say crowd. It's crowdsourcing. So we can engage them in finding a new starting place for existing research. We can refresh a start in research. We can use them to find new ideas or new approaches to longstanding issues. We can use competitions to find new solutions where either a new technology may be developed or existing technology can be to address a specific issue. And so what is a prize competition? Here's the easiest definition I can think of to explain it. It's a tool for solving tough issues and advancing research. puts it in a nutshell. The difference here is we can show by this simple graphic or illustrations. So let's think about a problem. When we have a problem, you may be the problem solver for it, or those immediately around you in your room or in your district. We work within that space, that problem space here, to try to resolve that problem. And if we can't resolve it in that local space, we may reach out to our network of subject matter experts. For reclamation, we may reach into an area office, a regional office, over to our technical service center. That becomes this blue area. These are the known solvers that can help us resolve or address or find a new way to do something. When we get to prize competitions, we reach out into this tan area. So we're looking at the solvers in other domains. Here's our opportunity to make a request of a to solve the issue. Issues that are well suited for a prize competition are those ones where it can be concisely described. It may be a component of a larger issue, or it's a long-standing issue. Often those situations or those problems where you're scratching your head going, there's got to be a better way to do this, make great prize competitions. So when we find these solvers in other domains, that's the crowd. It's the public. It's maybe having an issue related that's purely engineering, but you're reaching out to the school teacher, you're reaching out to the backyard inventor or the garage tinkerer. So you're reaching out to anyone that may have an idea that can get you jump started on resolving that issue or give you that aha moment. For the process of a competition, it's very basic. It's define the problem, establish monetary and non-monetary prizes so you can incentivize, get people interested, and put the challenge out. Put the challenge out to the public, and then establish your bars of success. So this is the criteria. What do we want? What are the rules of eligibility? What must a competitor do to be considered and determined a top solution or a top submission to be awarded a prize? And that's the simplest. So let's dive in a little bit further into the process of a prize competition. Here's a very simplified view of a workflow for competitions. The one thing that's always going on is over to the left, we're constantly identifying topics. The topics are identified in the early days of prize competition programs. This was done through workshops where reclamation pulled together groups of interest, internal, external to reclamation, federal, non-federal, and they say, these are the things we're facing as challenges in our water delivery or our infrastructure or our, the intersect where our projects intersect with the environment. We now continue to have some of those workshops or pull from, other workshops that are ongoing where they talk about the issues they're facing. We pull topics from casual conversations, experiences. These can come from any source. So once a topic's identified, we engage with potential partners to scope this topic further. We develop partnerships and refine the topic so we have a concise issue or problem that we can develop into a statement for a challenge and be able to issue that to the public. During that, we next go into the design, launch, and judge. That's the guts of a prize competition. I'm seeing some chats, Deb, about if others can see the slides. Okay, I'm going to continue. During the design, we have multiple subject matter experts and partners engaged. This is where we lay out the structure of the competition. We talk about the type, how many phases, what do we want to achieve? What's the desired outcome? Do we want a widget? Do we want a new idea or concept on paper? That's where we figure out what we want as an outcome. And then we work backwards to fill this competition in. Do we just have paper ideas? Do we want a lab demonstration? Do we want to see prototypes developed and tested? Do we have an opportunity for having a potential demonstration event where potential commercial interests can participate and potentially partner? So during that demonstration, that's where we also determine what the bar of success is. So in prizes, we pay for performance. It's not a situation where we're paying everybody for their idea. We pay for the ones we want. And through laying out criteria that must be met and eligibility requirements and submission requirements, we can define that bar of success so that when our judges, we have all the submissions in front of us and our panel or judges get together, they can evaluate what was submitted, compare it to this criteria, converse about these submissions, and figure out which ones rise to the top for an award. And so that works really, really well. And it's a great opportunity in prizes that we can connect all these subject matter experts together. The launch phase is what it is. You know, it's kicking off that competition, putting all the rules and requirements out to the public, and here's what we want to see, here's what we don't want to see, here's what the prize structure or the incentive structure is. And we want to engage and build our community. So getting the word out about the competition, trying to build interest and have people looking at the competition, considering ideas and considering putting together a submission to compete. We lay out all the competition deadlines and then engage in whatever other promotional activities make sense. News releases, if there's conferences that are of related interests, often we'll have our subject matter experts go and share that we have this competition, so you can keep working the networks to get the broadest audience possible to be thinking about these issues that we want to resolve. The judging, I talked about that, pulling together the multidisciplinary experts. It's not always technical experts, or you can describe them as technical experts. On the judging or the evaluation panel, we also want to see our end users. So we have a competition coming up related to canal safety. We have interest in having people on the evaluation panels that maybe the final consumer or would have to maintain whatever apparatus comes out of this solution, out of this competition. We want their input so they can say, it's feasible. No way could we do that. So can give that feedback of, do they think it would work? And is it actually something reasonable that could be implemented? You know, you may get a super fantastic idea, easy to implement and put in, but the maintenance or the operation is a nightmare. We want that feedback. So, and that all feeds into the bar of success, the criteria we establish. Depending on your competition structure, the judging step may happen over and over and over again. So you may have a judging or an evaluation process when everybody does their submissions online and our team, our evaluation panels reviewing submissions just on paper. It may happen again if we have a prototyping development. So we may select top 5 submissions and say, we want to keep working with you. Let's get a scaled prototype together. I think you put a good plan together, and then you'll have another evaluation as these solvers work with you in the competition, continuing the competition, to develop their idea, to see if they can actually put the pieces and parts together and have it do what they thought it would do. That's another evaluation step. And then if we have a demonstration event or a field testing or a field trial, that could be another evaluation process for judging and awards. So we can structure it. Prizes is great. It's not these real defined set rules or processes. It's however we design it that we think we can bring the greatest crowd bring the great ideas to us and get an outcome that's going to be useful. The last step is award. So this is the payment and announcement of the winners. And we may do this multiple times too throughout a competition. We may announce and pay at the end of a paper submission. We may announce and pay at the end of a prototype development, and then overall. So awards come in all shapes and sizes. The most appealing, of course, is cash awards, right? So that's always a great draw. The other pieces are awarding potential partnerships to test their ideas or continue the development or have access to supercomputers so they can do some modeling or analysis. Awards can be providing a site location for installation and testing of a prototype. Let's see how it performs in the field for a year. That can be an award. We do get small companies and large companies that compete and have great interest in that, because the field data and being able to put something out there is a big deal. And having that feedback from either experts out tinkering with it or the end user saying, you know, I just couldn't manage that piece. It's got to go. That's always great feedback that these solvers are looking for. We've offered non-monetary awards such as, you know, a co-presentation at a professional conference, giving the data and test results, or having our subject matter experts take a look at their solution or prototype and provide feedback. And we bring a whole host of different experts into the mix. We have had situations where solvers didn't have that interest. They were happy to get money, but they didn't want to continue to mature a solution. So they were more than happy in cases just to say, I'm happy with the public acknowledgement. I get the bragging chip to say I won Reclamation's prize competition, but I'm happy to contribute to this greater cause of trying to solve a problem. And those are always wonderful solvers too, to have in the mix and get ideas from. So what kicked this all off? So in 2015, Reclamation was approached or partnered up with USAID, and they led a competition, the DSAL Prize. This challenge was to look at or treat brackish groundwater so you could have greater supplies and rural and underdeveloped areas. With that, the interest was having potable and supplies that can be used for irrigation and at a low cost. So they added a renewable energy component to it. This competition was a multi-phase, and it brought, you know, a select or the top solvers or the most compelling idea solvers to Reclamation's facility in Alamogordo, our brackish groundwater national desalination research facility, where they brought their technologies, they brought their alternative energy sources. So they brought these trailers of things and set up their solutions, technologies, and ran them. So they were treating water, and the success criteria was based on volumes, potable and irrigation water volumes. We claim this was a great success. This built some energy in our research and development office that prizes do work. One of the winners did partner up with a manufacturer, and they're working to commercialize a technology that came out of that competition. The other things that were very exciting is this engage. They were eager to engage with the government and the experts that were there. They were eager and excited to engage with each other. Let's use each other's technologies. I know there may have been some intellectual property that may have had provisional patents or not, but they were always respectful about maintaining the confidentiality of what may be cutting edge there in that competition. So this one was fabulous, and there was great attention. We included a link to an article, but Bloomberg called this the Burning Man for water geeks. So it's an opportunity to be creative. So over time, in our short amount of time for this program, it's been evolving. Our initial competitions were paper submissions and ideas on paper, very theoretical, ideas that would take a lot of extra additional research and development to bring it to something that could be prototyped or tested. We've evolved from that to multi-phase competitions where it starts with the paper submission, but we want these solvers to tell us how they would develop it. And we're going to build our competition so we can go through a prototype. Our main interest is seeing advancements of technologies to address our issues or make us more efficient. We put it all under one big umbrella so we can structure the incentives to keep solvers engaged and moving and advancing and researching their technologies. We have entered into a partnership with NASA, so they maintain a large blanket agreement or an IDIQ where on the right you'll see this graphic of potential contractors. We're able to tap into NASA of contractors and have a simplified acquisition process or contracting process to procure solutions. And what we do is we want to procure the solutions with the requirement that the contractor has to administer a competition for us to get those solutions. So we define the problem, they bring their niche expertise on types of competitions to host those. So they help project manage and oversee the competition, manage all the in and outs of a competition, which is incredibly daunting. It's a lot of detail. And so the one advantage we now have is we have that, and NASA manages the contracts, Reclamation provides all the input. The other advantage here is under the procurement authority, we're able to tap into a bigger TAN area, that bigger domain of solvers. Under American Competes, which got competitions, kicked off, and it's a blanket authority, all the agencies can use it. It had very defined sideboards of who can compete. It limited it to U.S. citizens, permanent residents, and then businesses that had established places of business in the United States. When we went to the procurement model and working with NASA, and they've been very successful in using this, we're able to access the international solver community. And we'll talk about a couple competitions where we're seeing great successes out of that relationship. The other piece that has come to us through this partnership with NASA is the ability to do these technology searches. The last thing we want to do is identify a problem, ask for solvers to bring us an idea or bring us a solution to that problem. And it's a technology that's been out there that we just didn't know about it. So these technology searches are managed. They basically crawl the world, crawl academic, crawl research, and bring technologies back to us and details back to Reclamation and our partners to say, this is what we found that we think might be applicable to managing temperature in our reservoir releases. So they'll keep crawling, they'll ask us, do you like it? Do you not like it? What else do you want to see? And they go through that. And part of this is, if the technology's out there and we just don't know about it, let's not run a price competition. Let's go have the conversation and figure out if it's something that could work. If we find an alternative method and maybe just it's a minor adaptation of an existing technology, probably not prime for a price competition. If we can't find something that reasonably or effectively resolves the issue we're trying to address, then that's a good situation where we can say, okay, with reasonable confidence, we can proceed with defining our price competition, defining this issue that we want solvers to help us with. So advanced us, great. So in Reclamation, the prize program is organized by theme areas. Each of our theme area has 2 subject matter experts who help guide competitions that are related to that. And then they help form a standing prize team within Reclamation. The subject matter experts provide guidance, project management support. They lead competitions, they lead teams, they help pull teams together, they build networks. So they serve a great purpose. And then the organization of our prize competitions by these themes, water, infrastructure, environment, helps us keep our competitions focused on connecting to reclamation's mission. Definitely don't want to go do something that has nothing to do with reclamation. Our intent is for this to serve as a tool to advance our mission. And, you know, we have commonalities across a lot of other agencies and federal and non-federal interests. So it's pretty broad when you get to it. On the last page, you'll be able to see the links. I provided a couple links so you can go check out our prize webpage. But over the next handful of slides, I'm going to go through some competitions. I'll highlight some of the current, the upcoming, and past competitions that we've had in each of these theme areas. So let's start with water. I always split water into two pieces. We have the supplies, or that area that affect our supplies, so forecasting, streamflow monitoring. And then the next slide, I'll talk about treatment. So here we have a current competition that we just kicked off called the Streamflow Forecast Rodeo. We are asking for solvers to participate in a year-long data science competition. And we want to improve the skill of short-term streamflow forecast, looking at that 10 days out. So solvers from all over the world are developing and implementing methods for locations across the Western US. Reclamations in the 17 Western states, we like to focus in the Western US. And then they are developing this and they're executing their methods and trying to outperform the state of practice. And the professional streamflow forecast. We have a handful of benchmarks that are publicly available, and these solvers have to try to predict these forecasts, this streamflow, better than they do. We have a number of partners on this one, just a handful, just for your awareness. Tennessee Valley Authorities partnered up with us, Hydro-Quebec, Seattle International, which is a hydropower interest group. There's a lot of members to that. So we're in the first monthly challenge of a series of 12 monthly challenges, and we're seeing good participation. We don't have any winning yet because, you know, it takes, if they forecast today, it takes 10 days to know what the real forecast is at that location. We're on the scoping side, we have been in conversation with many interested parties or potential partners on improving snow water equivalent estimates. So SWE, information is critical to forecasting our water supplies, and it helps inform decision making. So when you talk to the experts, there's a number of sources for this SWE information, but the information is still limited. So this competition is focused again in the Western US, and it's targeting select basins. And what we're working through now is we're working through the limited data sets, so we can figure out how many are out there and how these sets can factor into scoring before we proceed with a process to bring a contractor on board to manage a competition. But if we have greater access to snow water equivalent estimates, or it's with more accuracy and they can outperform, you know, the state of the art skill, it's our forecasting water supplies and our decision making will be better informed. So it's valuable to reclamation in managing water supplies. I'm going to highlight a couple of successes here real quick. Subseasonal climate forecast Rodeo 2. So this is increasing or improving the forecasting skill for temperature and precipitation, looking 3 to 4 weeks out and looking 5 to 6 weeks out. So we're asking solvers to make those forecasts over the domain. You can see the maps here. We just recently concluded Rodeo 2, the year-long portion of it. So we had solvers submitting solutions every 2 weeks, submitting these forecasts every 2 weeks. And then we'd have to wait and see how these benchmark and the state-of-the-art forecast outperformed against what really happened. So that's what this map shows is on the left is the forecast of what that solver thought it would be. And then the observed is in the middle, and then it shows an error, you know, were you warmer or were you cooler? And then it has a calculation. I leave this one to the experts to calculate a score so we could see how these people compared to the state of the art, benchmark standards, right? And compared to each other. So we had great successes here. You notice it's Rodeo 2. We ran a Rodeo 1, and it was limited to participants in the United States, and we had 6 to 10 participants that made it through the full year of competition. With Rodeo 2, we've averaged 45. So we had a great increase in number of participants, and we've seen over the various weeks of submissions where our benchmarks outperformed the solvers, and the solvers greatly outperformed benchmarks. We are waiting for the weather to happen so we can get to our final overall results and be able to tell who the winners are. And that will happen in November. So keep your eyes open. We'll see how that goes. I provided a link to the leaderboard. You can also just search Rodeo 2 leaderboard, and this NIDIS or drought.gov site will come up. It's kind of fun to go look through the individual results on the different weeks, because you can click on a participant's name and then you can click and see all these different maps to see how they performed against what really happened in the temperature and weather. So the other competition I wanted to highlight just real quickly is this lowering cost of continuous streamflow monitoring. So this one was focused on, it was a partnership with USGS, and it was focused on finding other ways that we could maybe more efficiently monitor continuous streamflow. So at the aging stations, it's not that anything was too expensive. It's just, if you can do it for less, can we expand the network? Can we increase the accuracy, and can we reduce the number of times personnel have to go out and either manage or fix or do maintenance on these sites, so we can reduce the risk of a safety incident or too many hours on the road. We had a successful competition. We had some great ideas, and one of the winning solutions, our internal reclamation researcher is partnering up with the solver, but our internal reclamation researcher wrote a proposal and competed for funds under our applied science grants and received a grant. So he's going to go develop these things and go put them out in the field and test this e-tape idea. So we'll see how that works. We're excited. Our next area, is water treatment. This is the exploring treatment or monitoring technologies that can make water more useful or increase our water supplies. Launching in 1 week from today is our More Water, Less Concentrate competition. It's a multi-phase competition, very similar to the desal prize we just spoke about. The intent is to have competitors make paper submissions, do a prototype development period, and then come to a demonstration event back at Biggendorf for the Bracken Groundwater National Desal Research Facility that we have in Alamogordo. The intent on this one is we want solutions that reduce the volume of concentrate that is required for disposal when we undertake inland desalination. So these systems, they make good water, they have concentrate that needs to go somewhere else to be disposed of. We want to reduce how much has to be disposed and have a greater amount of fresh water or useful water come out of that desalination process. We also want it to be affordable, we want it environmentally sustainable, and we want it efficient. So to make the desal an attractive option where traditional sources of water are not adequate for use. We are currently scoping a competition about arsenic sensor. We're performing a technology search to see what's happened without us knowing in the advances. We do have EPA participating with us on that to take a look. And if it comes to a point where we think a competition's a good idea, we'll get that scoped. Initial thinking, we haven't put any sideboards on what we would ask solvers to solve for, or what we would want as the outcome. Do we want something that a general household could use to see if there's arsenic in their water? Do we want something that's like in line for water treatment to see what the arsenic levels are, or some environmental monitoring type sensor so you can see if there's arsenic moving through a system? We haven't defined that yet. So we're in the early scoping. And EPA has great interest in some great ideas for this competition and maturing the solution coming out of a different type of a prize. One competition I'll highlight as a success, we did conduct a pathogen sensor competition back in 2016 or 17. Maybe we made the award in 18. Anyways, the winners out of that competition went ahead and put a proposal into one of our desalination water purification grant FOA's funding opportunities, and were successful. So they received a grant from Reclamation under desalination water purification to mature their idea on the pathogen sensor. So we'll see how that one goes. I think it's got a ways. I think the grant was just given last year, maybe. So we'll see how that one goes. Let's talk about infrastructure. So you're going to see my giddiness like increase here as we work towards environment. But infrastructure is one of those where we see great participation because it's something where people can get their arms around it or wrap their brain around the issue we're trying to solve. So the infrastructure theme area focuses on our physical operations and maintenance of our projects, the dams, the hydropower, conveyance facilities. Tomorrow, yeah, I should have made this bigger and in red and flashing, but tomorrow we are launching our Improving Canal Safety competition. The goal of this multi-phase competition is to find options to signage and fencing that would help reduce the risk of drowning in our canals, improve egress if someone gets in or an animal gets in, make it easier to get out, or to improve the safety of responders that may be involved in rescue or recovery efforts. So I think a lot of people have been around water or around canals. I think we'll have some good interest because it can hit home. I remember personally being in Boise and swimming and tubing in the canals and then ice skating on them when they were frozen. Probably not a good thing. So this one's exciting. I think it's just something that we can get all kinds of ideas from all kinds of solvers with various backgrounds. So we're excited. We're partnering with Klamath Irrigation District, Denver Water, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and NASA Tournament Lab. Common Pool is the vendor that will be running the competition. And this is multi-phase. Our intent is to get to a point where we have solvers that can bring prototypes into our lab. So the top, I think, 3 competitors that make it through the various stages will be invited to come into our lab here in Reclamation in Denver, install their prototype on a lab constructed flume. So they're making a scaled prototype and we're going to run water through it. We're going to 3D print some objects to see how their prototype performs, see if it's durable, see if it's feasible or reasonable to implement. Can someone install it, or do you need special equipment or special printing? So we'll have a demonstration at the end of the competition where we do invite the solvers in. They get to engage with us and get to see how their prototype withstands testing in a lab environment. Ideally, we would love to have a solution or solutions that can be further developed and tested in the field. So I was working with someone to work on some last minute communications for this competition. They're out of Virginia, and they stated just randomly in their email that they look forward to seeing a solution like this installed at CNO Canal near Great Falls. So it clicks. Another competition we currently have going is the Rust Busters. So you'll see these pictures on the screen here. These are still samples that our top contestants were shipped. And they're applying their prototypes to these still samples, and they should be returning them in the next week or two to reclamation, so we can do some lab testing, see how their prototypes, their coat, or whatever tool they developed for applying a coating perform. And then we have a couple prototypes that will go to 2 different field locations and submerged for 13 months. They'll be checked on at a routine interval to see if those solutions that these solvers, these 5 solvers developed, is withstanding the elements. Is it surviving through a hot summer down near Vegas, or is it surviving ice up north? We partnered with the Corps of Engineers on this competition, so we're excited to see the outcomes. This one was great. We had broad participation across internationally, and 2 of our finalists, one's from the Netherlands and the other's from Uganda, and then we have 3 that are in the States. So have some great ideas and technologies coming our way to test. We have 3 competitions listed here that we're scoping out now, reducing canal seepage, so that one's pretty straightforward. We want some non-destructive methods for testing or assessing the condition of composites. Composites are becoming more and more used in our conveyance in our facilities. So would like an alternative to visual inspections, or to be able to detect imperfections where we can't see it. And then a no outage testing of our hydropower protection system. So I'm looking for an opportunity here where we can have an algorithm or something that can send out a signal, get data back, and tell us how our protection systems are doing at our hydropower plants without taking an outage or taking it down to do the testing. A success, so detecting internal erosion. This is where things are dirt moves up with a canal or a dam failure. We had a solution come out of that using distributed acoustic sensing, and an internal researcher went and investigated that further and recommended that we do some additional research and development, because it was a very promising prospect for being able to detect erosion measures that may be happening and be able to detect it before we were able to see it visually, which is the current practice. Our last theme area, environment. And I see a handful of questions. We'll come back to those here in a second. Environment. So these competitions focus on a wide range of activities related to the environment, from fish to managing sediment to mussel control, basically anything that is at the intersection of our projects and the environment. So we know there's environmental factors that affect our cost, our operations. We know there's compliance things we need to do so we can continue to operate our projects and conveyance features. We just wrapped up the submission phase of our current competition, Guardians of the Reservoir. The intent of this competition is managing the sediments that collect in reservoirs or other water impoundments. And we want to manage those either through removing them or keeping them moving. So keep them moving through the system. We're partnered with the Corps of Engineers to develop that multi-phase competition with the intention of having the finalists develop and demonstrate their technologies. The Corps of Engineers has a location here in Colorado that they're open to having these top solutions, top solvers bring their widget here and show us how it works and compete. Can it move 500 cubic yards of dirt or 500 cubic feet of dirt so far? We'll see how that works out. It's exciting. This one, as of closed yesterday, we had 93 submissions. So we've got our contractor working hard to review those for eligibility, review those for meeting the requirements that we asked these solvers to meet on their initial submission, and then we'll pass these submissions on to our multidisciplinary evaluation panel. For upcoming, we are in the early aspects of scoping a competition related to managing aquatic vegetation in canals. At this point, we're very, very broad. We're starting to connect with other agencies and entities that have interests, or stakeholders that have interest in this topic. And working through conversations and weighing out the pros and cons of what we would ask for in ways of solutions. Right now, we have not put the sideboards on what we would ask for. Right now, it's still open that we may allow chemical options, or we may want to focus on the physical. So a lot of conversation there to bring that issue of managing that vegetation into view. So in the environment, we've had a number of successes. I'm going to just highlight two here. Fish exclusion or fish protection prize. We just announced winners from the fish protection prize this past September, 3 winners. This was a carry-on competition from our fish exclusion competition reclamation ran last year. We partnered up with Department of Energy Water Power Technologies Office to run a fish protection prize to take it to the next level. We did a concept, a pitch contest to find these winners. And the top 3 winners won cash prize. And then they also won a partnership or a CRADA with Energy's Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, so they can further develop their ideas. And one of the solutions I will highlight is an idea for a new screening technology. So we screen fish out of canals or intakes. Well, they came up with a new idea. Go ahead and continue screening, but let's change the shape of some of the aspects of the screen so it mimics the filtering structures on fish, the gills. So by doing that, they anticipate creating this interstitial eddies and creating a situation where eggs or small fish or larval would have a ricochet deflection off of those screens and not pass through into the intake. So we're excited to see where that goes. And that software is actually out of Colorado. So I'm not sure exactly what technologies or expertise they're going to ask out of PNNL, but it is a great opportunity if they needed some manufacturing or something 3D printed. That lab may have that capability, or they may be able to test it in their lab if that solver already produced something. The other competition that I think has a really exciting outcome is the eradication of invasive mussels in open water. I think we're all very familiar with the invasiveness. The winner here is Biome Labs, and their whole point is developing or doing some genetic modification to induce this, in the most simple terms, species-specific contagious cancer. So if they can modify it, it's based off of a situation where the Tasmanian devil has something similar. They thought they could do it in mussels. Reclamation's partnering with this Biome lab to advance that research and develop, and they're getting all set up with testing tanks and getting their methods down so they can try the inoculation and see how it pans through. So the last thing I want to highlight for this group is the collaboration in these competitions is vital. Every time we run a competition, we recognize the value of the partnerships that we have, and partners coming to the table and wanting to participate. This is just a handful of entities that we've partnered with on competitions. Most often, partners come in the way of subject matter expertise that can contribute to design, giving their input on design, or participating as a member of our evaluation or our evaluation panel, or going ahead and amplifying or sharing in promotional activities, sharing the word that this competition's out there and we want to solve this issue. So I just wanted to highlight that. We're always open to partnerships. We're always open to insights coming out of these partnerships. And always seeking to bring more involved, because it does make our program robust. I think that covers it. I provided 2 links at the bottom of this PowerPoint. And if it doesn't record for some reason, we can surely get this PowerPoint out and share with folks. But we'll turn and answer questions. So Deb, where would you like to start?
Let's see, so questions. We do have a couple on the board that we can start with, and if you do have some questions, you can either pose them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask. So let me get started with what we have received so far. The first question coming in from Michelle Bushman. She asks, does Reclamation keep a publicly accessible clearinghouse of all the different ideas, including those that don't win? And how does Reclamation handle the intellectual property issues, e.g. patents? Does entering the competition include agreements for ownership or licensing of the ideas?
So Michelle, great questions. And this is what we struggle with every competition. We go through these conversations. So we have a publicly accessible webpage, which is this link, research/challenges, where you can see past winners. Historically, the submissions were anonymous. We didn't see them. The contractor we had at the time would sanitize them, so we would not know exactly who they were. And so we didn't always have permission to reveal all the solutions that we received. But on our awards, we list the ones that we've paid, and those are the ones that we have access to. And I'm going to put access in quotes because it goes to your next question with the intellectual property. So in every competition, we wrestle with that. Reclamation does not take ownership of any intellectual property. That remains under the ownership of that solver. And we make reminders in our competitions that they need to protect it. They need to mark their solutions or submissions if there's anything of sensitive nature or trade secret or to that degree. So that's how that works. We do consider, and we do have competitions where we have taken a license to use that intellectual property, and it's generally very broad. So in those competitions, it's disclosed at the front that if they make a submission and they win, as a condition of receiving their prize, they would have to issue Reclamation or the federal government a license to use that solution. So we can go produce further research, further develop, partner up. It's incredibly broad. So that's how we handled that. It's a careful line to walk with intellectual property that discloses with the patents, but we don't advise these solvers. We do make it clear though that they need to be consulting with their attorneys and thinking through patents if they have something that would be considered intellectual property. So entering the competition, they don't make the agreement. They have to acknowledge that either they may have to grant a license or not. But that final granting of a license doesn't occur until they're paid. So I think that addresses it. We do have a handful of ideas from competitions where we did not take a license to use that intellectual property. So we have a limited amount of information that may be shared. Otherwise, our solvers are usually pretty good. We can stay in contact and say, hey, we have someone interested in this idea. Are you willing to share and work on it? So we'll reach out to them. I hope that helped, Michelle. And then we have another one.
Yep. The next question is coming in from Roger Gorky. He asks, what's the scope of EPA's partnering on concentrate?
Okay, so the EPA is not partnering on concentrate, but it's not a bad conversation to have with them. They are partnering with us on the arsenic sensor. So part of the thinking there is they have standards and they're always interested in developing technologies. So they're partnering with us on arsenic sensor, if that helps. On concentrate,
well-
we're still looking for more partners.
Well, I think this is Roger Gorky, and I'm from EPA's Office of Water. So I guess the question is because it fits along the lines of what the concentrate does, and probably the arsenic as well, of the National Waterless Action Plan. And the question has always come up, so what do you do with all of the concentrate from, either reuse inland and or desal of brackish water? I guess that's more of a statement than a comment or a question, but just a follow-up question. So how can we and how can we help identify topics that would be good for potential prize competitions that would go out in I was having computer issues, so I missed the beginning part. That initial phase, rodeo phase, I guess is what it is, where you kind of look at, hey, it would be great if somebody could do this.
Right.
So can we, and how could we? And Westfast might be a good venue to be able to probably give you more ideas than you ever wanted or needed. But
So, Roger, I think there's multiple ways. So my email and phone number are right there. I'm happy to take ideas any way they come in, or if you just want to have a conversation about some, happy to take them. If you have interest, or if there's others in EPA that have interest in talking on specific topics, I can make the connection with subject matter experts in those areas. If you wanted to partner on concentrate, we are looking for evaluators. We're looking for agencies that would love to, do a social media post. Look what Reclamation is doing. Here's this competition. With social media, which is a great venue for solvers. It seems like we get a large community coming in from that. So that's an option. And I'm happy to connect with our more waterless concentrate team with you if there's interest, or if there's experts that want to serve on an evaluation panel or participate at a demonstration event. So we can talk that through.
And I seem to remember some of these prize competitions, it's either in the NDRP report or the Water Reuse Action Plan. I can't remember which, but it's in one or both of those that talks about the prize competition. So I'm definitely not the expert, but just making sure that we're doing more helping of you as you help us for issues, I guess is the point.
Yep. And I'm connected with Denise Shaw.
Yep.
Out of your DC office too.
Yeah.
So when I can grab her attention, we do talk about that.
So Jen,
Yeah.
just listening to that exchange, I had the question, when you are looking for partners or evaluators, how do you reach out, or how do these agencies know that you're looking?
So that's a good question, Deb. And often we're relying on our networks. So our professional networks, when we bring a prize team together on a topic, we have our theme leads, and then we also have subject matter experts and team leads that help pull the team together. And we generally will start internally with Reclamation, identifying who may have a stake or an interest in that topic, and then work from their networks out. We'll brainstorm what other agencies might have interest. We use our connections. And then we use their connections, right? So it can parlay into private industry or state, local agencies or interest NGOs. We've had American Rivers partner up with us too. So often it's through our networks. And then there is a prize network that's managed through GSA and challenge.gov. They have a big listserv that if we're struggling with some partners or bringing some other perspectives to the table, we can use them to put out a listserv call for partners too.
So just to follow on, Roger was indicating that WestFast could be a part of that and help with that. So is there a way we could use the liaison position to get that information out in front of the WestFast agency so that they could provide input more routinely or regularly?
Sure. I think we can figure something out, Deb. I've been contemplating in my head about how I could do like a quarterly update, one pager that says, hey, look what we've got going on, or we're still interested in hearing your ideas in these areas, or whatever. Maybe
Okay.
that's a tool.
Okay.
And we have the WestFast newsletter too that goes out to a big
audience
list. Yeah, audience.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Great.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that would be ideal is to actually get our press folks to work together on announcing some of this stuff, but
yeah.
Right. Hope springs eternal.
Yeah. Yep. It does. I'm sure we can figure something out, especially when we have electronic communications, right? The other thing that Reclamation can do is when we get these competitions going, we, like Common Pool and HeroX, maintain these lists of entities or individuals, and then their solver communities that they send updates to, and we can surely add others to that too. Of when you do outreach, we want you to include these when we launch or highlight upcoming stuff. So we can do that. Awesome. Thanks, Roger.
Okay, so any other questions out there?
Great.
Looks like it. So great. I want to thank everyone for joining today, and I especially thank you, Jen, for your presentation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.